will start in Hong Kong, where pro-democracy activists are clashing with police in some of the worst violence since the protests began 5 months ago. You're looking at live pictures from the campus of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. In the last hour, the situation's deteriorated. You can see what's happening in front of our eyes. The students there, the sky's lit up. Students have set up barricades as well in surrounding streets. At least one car has been set on fire. The students have been throwing rocks at riot police, police responding with tear gas. Very tense situation, especially, of course, Hong Kong, the entire city on edge a day after a protester was shot point blank by a policeman and another man set on fire after arguing with a group of demonstrators. So the situation really very volatile. And as I say, in just the last hour or so, it has picked up again. Let's just listen in. Now, the university's vice-chancellor has been trying to negotiate with students and the police, trying to calm this situation. But, as you can see, there's no sense really of control here. I think we can go to our correspondent, Robin Brandt, who is watching the situation. Robin, you were saying really things have developed quite fast in the last hour or so.
Yes, and what's unusual about what's happening now in this area of Hong Kong is not, unfortunately, the fact that you have violent confrontation at times between police and protesters, not the fact that you're having tear gas being used, rubber bullets and petrol bombs as well, but it's the fact that the confrontation in the last few hours is centred on the campus of Chinese University here. That hasn't happened in the 5 or so months that we've had this level of demonstration, this level of protest here in Kong. That's what makes this different. The other thing as well that I think is evidence of the growing change in the nature of the confrontation here is that this is happening in the middle of the working week. Much of the focus in the past has been around big organised events at weekends. We've had protest demonstrations. Sometimes they have been followed by violent confrontation between police and protesters as the night goes on. But it's a Tuesday night here in Hong Kong, and we're seeing dramatic images of police confronting students on the campus of one of Hong Kong's most prestigious universities. That's not really something we've seen before. But I think, as you said, the last 48 hours in particular have seen a definite escalation in the confrontation here. We saw a record number of arrests on Monday, some 287 in one day. That's the highest level we've had, according to the police, and that followed on from the shooting of a man in the chest at point-blank range, the third person to be shot by police since these protests began back in June, and that led to a huge amount of tension. And I think what we're seeing on Chinese University campus tonight is probably associated with the aftermath of that.
We're also seeing, Robin, some reports coming through of the protest groups gathering at City University. It's not just the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Tell us something more about the role of students. I mean, ever since the days of the first umbrella protests, students have been part of the backbone of the movement.
Well, they have. I mean, look, the arrests, which now run into the several thousands, range, according to the police, from people aged as young as 12 to those aged in their early 80s. That gives you a scope of the different types of people that have been included in these protests. But, you know, the backbone is the young, is high school students, is part of the student population here. That was the same back in 2014 with the umbrella movement then. It appears to be the same this time round. It is the young who are at the tip of the spear, so to speak, in terms of the protests, in terms of those perhaps that are leading the most violent confrontation with the police. So there may be some within the police. You looked at some of the action yesterday when they focused on moving into some of the dormitories at Chinese University. There may be some who believe that they need to be more aggressive now in taking on those among the student population who they believe are behind these protests, which are now into their 6th month.
Robin Brandt, thanks for getting us up to date there. We will stay across what's happening in Hong Kong. Just to remind you, these are some of the live pictures coming in from the territory right now. We will return to Hong Kong later on Impact. Welcome back to Impact on BBC World News. A reminder of our top story this hour, very much a moving story. There are battles between police and students taking place at the Chinese University in Hong Kong. See there, the riot shields up and the fires burning. Another day of protest in the territory. The clash is taking place not only on the Chinese University, but we're also hearing about activity at City University. Tear gas has been fired on the sports field there. You can see both the riot police and protesters there, the umbrellas up as well. The Vice-Chancellor has tried to mediate, tried to negotiate, but as you can see, still a situation where the police don't appear to have control. Let's speak now to pro-democracy campaigner Joshua Wong. Joshua, we've spoken to you several times here on Impact on BBC World News. How would you describe the situation that we're seeing unfold right now?
Even the principal of Chinese University was fired by the tear gas of riot police. And the government needs to stop firing at students now. They just turned the campus into a war zone.
You have said, Joshua, if we lose this fight, we lose our last breath of freedom. Are you seeing this particular moment as especially important?
Students gathered inside the campus is totally legal without any kind of challenge from the government. I see no reason for the riot police storming the campus, fire tear gas and multiple rubber bullets, especially now more and more students injured in the clash. And also even lots of teacher, professor, scholar, or the vice-chancellor are targeted by the riot police. And now I believe it's a time for the world to watch on it and respond to the war declared by Hong Kong's riot police in this university.
This is happening a day after Carrie Lam said that protesters are the enemy of the people.
Hong Kong government is murdering students. That's the fact that crystal clear experience and observed by or witnessed by Hong Kong people.
But Joshua Wong, it's not one-sided, is it? Because when you looked at what happened yesterday, we also saw that appalling image of a man set alight after arguing with a crowd of protesters. The violence is happening both ways. The violence is escalating.
Clash and violence escalating. That's the fact. But if you still think protesters are more violent, look at how police is turning university into a war zone. It's not surprised by how riot police clear people occupy on the street. But what's wrong for students gather inside the campus and just having the peaceful assembly, but being fired by uncountable number of bullets? And that's what we experience. And I hope more social leaders around the world, no matter they live or serve Hong Kong or not, if they care about Hong Kong, they should ask the government to stop the murder now. Otherwise, the bloodshed will be far more escalated than our imagination.
Blood is being shed, the tear gas is being fired, rubber bullets are being fired. We've had live rounds fired. We've talked about that this week. If the students don't stand down, if they stay, we're looking at the live pictures now on the campus of the Chinese University. Those students are putting their lives in danger.
Now it's the riot police put student life in danger. Students just hope to have their peaceful assembly inside the campus. And I think there's no reason on none of the ground to blame on those victims. And now we just hope people to realize that Hong University is not a public area that could freely allow police storm into it. And even the Vice-Chancellor hoped to have the negotiation with the commander during the protest zone, but police just refuse it. And even the Vice-Chancellor is affected by the tear gas, which is really insane. Who can imagine even this kind of social leader or upper-class elite in the society will still being targeted by the riot police, which just proved that they turned university into war zone and how they also turn Hong Kong to be a police state.
Joshua Wong, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on BBC World News.